Gordon is actually probably asleep right now, but that's no fault of his because it's the middle of the night where he is in Scotland. So with him gone, I can do whatever I want now. Today we got the amazing Matt Rhodes here for an interview. So thanks right off the bat to Matt for giving up some of his time to do that for us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
No problemo. So first off, do you want to give us maybe a little bit of quick background on who you are and what you do? Maybe, how do you start off? What's your history in the industry, that kind of thing?
For sure, yeah. Well, right now I'm a lead concept artist at the game developer called BioWare. And
Right.
I've been with them now for, at the time of this recording, 11 years or so.
Wow, holy. That's awesome.
Yeah, in concept art field, I'm an old man already.
That's
but
true.
no,
Actually, concept art hasn't been around for, that long compared to other, fields and stuff.
it's really evolved in the last decade.
Yeah.
It's changed into a whole different animal.
Mm-hmm. So, have you worked for any other developers other than BioWare, or is that the only one?
No, actually, it's been BioWare straight out of school. It's a little hard to peg down sometimes how long I've been there because I started as an intern
Right, cool.
in between my third and fourth year, and then I signed on after I graduated.
Interesting. So, where did you go to art school?
I went to art school at the Alberta College of Art and Design in Calgary.
Mm-hmm. And how was it there? Did they have like an internship program to sort of, shuttle you off to a studio?
They didn't have an official intern program. It ended up being well. First of all, I really like the school. I'm quite fond of it. They had a great program,
Mm-hmm.
and still do. I was recently visiting. But at the time there were a few ACAD alumni working for BioWare, and while they were working on Jade Empire, they needed some extra help, and so they came down to look at portfolios and ask around. And so they hadn't ever actually done an intern before, or at least an art intern. So I was kind of the first one to do that.
Wow, so paving new ground there. Shit.
Yeah.
So did you start on Jade Empire? That's like way back.
Yeah, that was the first project that I was involved in.
Man, and what were you doing at Jade Empire?
I was doing character concepts mostly.
Nice. And were they character concepts that were going directly into the game then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, shit, that's cool. And this is in between your third and your fourth year.
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It was that summer I was working on Jade Empire, and then they were actually getting really close to the end. So I was kind of just providing extra NPC concepts and follower drawings and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then Mass Effect was just starting off, so it was codenamed SFX at the time, and I just kind of started doing work for that. And then I stayed on contract while I went back to school, so I was doing Mass Effect designs in between homework assignments.
Jeez, now that is something that a lot of people will be envious of, like, interning and then basically just being able to stay on at the studio that you're working at the summer before. That's actually that's really cool.
It was a dream come true because previous summers I was like landscaping and biting my fingernails off, worried that I wouldn't be able to pay for my next semester.
Mm-hmm. So before you interned at BioWare, did you kind of know who they were, or was it sort of like just a thing that dropped out of the sky?
For me, it really dropped out of the sky. Like I had played Knights of the Old Republic with a friend, but I never connected it to a developer. I wasn't following them in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was, actually, it really was out of the blue because I was on my way home one day and a teacher just said, "Hey, grab whatever artwork you can find and come to this room."
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I had my sketchbook, and there were a whole bunch of fourth years standing in the room. And they basically pushed me to the front of the line. I can only assume to just get me out of the way.
But
and I just sat down in front of
right in front of the people that were there. Yeah.
Yeah, my current art director his name is Matt Goldman,
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually the one that talked to me, and I had no idea who he was, so I just handed him my sketchbook, and we just talked about games and art, and then I went home, and then 2 weeks later I got the phone call that said, "You want to be an intern?"
Wow, and that like 5 minutes or whatever it was, you must have made quite the impression then. Shit.
I guess so.
That's really cool.
I'm very thankful I carried my sketchbook wherever I went.
Yeah. So before that, did you have sort of dreams to get into art in games, or did it literally just fall out of the sky?
It literally fell out of the sky. It was never
Wow.
games. It was only like in my mind it was either film or comics.
Film or comics, like feature films or animation?
Whatever I could find. I would have gone to animation school if I could have afforded it. but I went to art school instead, and so I just thought, okay, I'll find some way to do it somehow, or graphic novels, or movie concept art was getting pretty interesting at the time, so I thought
Yeah,
that would be kind of a cool direction ahead.
11 years ago, that would have been 2005.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess movies were really starting to pick up then, especially animated films as well. Shit. And
yeah.
I can tell you from experience, animation school is very expensive because I just graduated like 4 months ago.
Oh,
It's
congratulations.
it's killer in terms of tuition, but it
Yeah.
was like you're fond of your school. I'm definitely fond of where I came from as well. It was
Was
I
that
mean,
Sheridan?
yeah, I was Sheridan. It was it really is what you put into it, and I put a lot into
Yeah.
it, and obviously you get a lot of it out of it when you do that.
That's yeah. Every student or aspiring artist needs to know that. Like, you're not going to get anything out of it but what you put in.
So so
We actually have a fair amount of Sheridan grads with us at Bioware.
really, yeah. Actually, I was. I don't know any by name, but I know for a fact that a lot of fourth years either got scooped up immediately or went off after like a studio or two. Like I think do you know Ben Lowe?
I do.
Man, I saw his thesis film right before I did my thesis film, and I was just like, this guy is gonna end up places. And then he goes and works on Bioshock Infinite. Now he's at Bioware, and I'm just like, God
Yeah,
damn, that's awesome.
I know, it's really awesome. I work with. Do you know Nick Thornborough or Casper Conifel?
Both names are familiar. I do not know them in person
Okay,
though.
yeah, they're both on the concept art team.
Wow, and are they both from Sheridan?
Yep.
Nice, and I guess both from animation too. It's
Yes.
weird
Yeah.
how like all the animation people are going off and not doing animation.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's what happens when you just burn a bunch of 2D animation desks, I guess.
Or yeah, I mean like animation also gets you to draw an absolute crap ton, so maybe people would be like,
And
I could put these drawings to such better use.
totally. Well, I mean, and that's, I mean, again, this makes me sound like a Luddite and an old man, but as great as new technologies and awesome things are, if you can draw, you can use ZBrush. If you can draw, you can use whatever. You like it. Just the drawing is the true potent skill. I don't know.
Yeah, so like if say you met someone who wanted to like really get into 3D, what would you say for them to, practice 3D a lot or maybe go half and half drawing in 3D?
Half and half drawing in 3D would probably turn them into a monster.
Really?
I think so. Because like the 3D is great and that's awesome, but there's something about drawing. I mean, I've used this. I was talking about this in Montreal recently. That there's a lot of artists that I know that if like they draw incredibly, and then when they go to turn their artistic attentions elsewhere, it's just it's still there. It's still amazing.
Mhm.
I mean, you look at just even some of the 3D artists on our project, some of the great ones. You look at their own personal work and their own paintings, their own drawings, and they're incredible. I
And
just think it's
they're clearly still doing drawings and paintings on their own. It's not
yeah.
just 3D.
I'm convinced, and this sounds a little tinfoil hat, but I'm convinced that drawing is an immutable skill.
Something you
That
just
it's
can't go without if you want to work in the industry.
yeah, it's like the core skill. It's like such a fundamental. You can't break it down into any more parts, and if you can do it, it applies to almost everything.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's my training or my own experience, but I completely agree with that. And
Yeah.
even the people I'm working for now, I work for Elliott Animation in Toronto, and I sort of gotten to be pretty good buds with the guy who runs the studio, George Elliott, and he's just like, dude, it's all about drawing. Like, draw those
Hmm.
ellipses. Don't just Photoshop them. Like you really got to get
Yeah.
those drawing skills down. And even if you think you have it down, you don't. You just keep going.
Oh yeah, it's infuriatingly unlike bicycle riding.
Yeah.
Like you do forget.
Yeah, that's totally true. You can pick up a bicycle after. I mean, I'm not even close to 30, but after like 30 years or a guitar, and you should be able to more or less remember, at least enough to get by. But
Yeah.
yeah, you go without drawing for even a week, and it's like, what the hell? I'm like
Oh yeah.
5 years back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying how you have to just constantly keep up with it no matter what. It's just like
Hmm.
physical exercise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's much closer to that than it is to a skill, a weird muscle memory skill like bicycle riding.
Yeah. So sort of moving forward at BioWare, how many projects have you been involved with there?
Let's see. Okay, Jet Empire, Mass 1, 2, 3, Inquisition, Dragon Age 2. That's 6 that are public. and then about 3 projects that didn't work out. So about nine,
Interesting. Wow. Holy.
9 all told, 6 real ones.
And also with a lot of the same people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's one of the great things about being around the same place for so long. It has been with a lot of the same people, and like even still, I'm working with a team that's been around forever. So
Yeah. So, geez, and have you also sort of like switched roles as you sort of continued through your 11 years there, or were you mostly just on the art team, concept art team?
I think I've just figured out more about what the role means.
Right.
Because I mean, honestly, I'm very thankful. I never try to take it for granted that I got to join the company doing what I wanted to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
I came in as a concept artist, and that was exactly what I have always dreamed of doing.
Wow. Yeah, you really lucked
Um,
out in that case.
absolutely. And so I think over the last 10 years, it's just been a matter of figuring out what that means and trying to find out the best way to do it, and also living up to the responsibility of it, because honestly there was a certain amount of terror. I mean, I worked on Mass Effect fresh out of college,
Mm-hmm.
and that ended up becoming, I mean, Mass Effect. So it's like trying to become an artist worthy of that responsibility.
Yeah, that's I mean, just thinking about Mass 1, 2, and 3, like I played those games to death, and just looking at the visual design in like literally everything. Like I have the Normandy up on my desk just to remind me, like there's that one shape that permeates everything in those games.
Yep.
Like it's just it's awesome, man. So
Yeah,
so out of
it's
all those projects that you were involved with, either the ones that went through, the ones that didn't, was there any one particular one that you thought, was the most rewarding or your favorite, or were they all sort of more or less the same on that scale?
oh, Dragon Age Inquisition.
Definitely. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
absolutely, not even close. Honestly, so far it has been like the highlight of my career.
Really? And why was that?
It was kind of a perfect storm of reasons. First, it was for years I had been begging for them to put all of the concept artists in the same room. BioWare's kind of built like the building we're in is kind of like a drywall submarine. Like it's a lot of little offices down long hallways.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's not a very open plan space. So I've been begging, like, put us all together, let us all kind of feed off each other because we'd been kind of separated for whatever reason.
Right.
And so Inquisition, we finally all got everybody together in the same room, and it just the creativity just it was like static walking in. It was great. You just look over your shoulder, and suddenly you're inspired, and people were egging each other on, and um,
Nice.
so that was great. We also had like our art director on that project, Matt Goldman. I just really admire him. I think as an art director, he's kind of what I would aspire to be if I ever decide I want to head down that path.
Mm-hmm.
In that he really he trusts his team and he defends his team, so he lets us get weird, and then he defends our weirdness against the rest of the project.
Interesting. Wow, that's awesome. So like in putting all the artists at BioWare together in a room, you guys kind of became greater than the sum of your parts then?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and that, I like to say, like we were able to release an art book for Inquisition, and there became a point where we had the discussion that we can't credit each image individually. We have to do it like movie credits, because there isn't a single image that we can find that was just done by one person.
Right.
Like some of them were drawn entirely by one person, but it's subject matter that was designed by someone else, or it wouldn't have gotten that to that point without
A whole bunch
the
of people throwing in
someone else.
ideas.
Yeah, so there was just like ego was stripped away, and everyone just basically kept pushing and pushing and sharing techniques, and yeah, it was a really great experience.
Must have just allowed you all to operate at the top of your game then. Damn.
Yeah,
Wow, like you know what? I noticed in transitioning from Dragon Age 2 to Inquisition when I played it, I was just like, this is something different. This is like it's good. It wasn't what I was expecting, but even from that first cutscene, when your character's like, I can't remember if it was a dream sequence or it was right after the explosion, and you're like
yeah,
climbing up that tower. I'm just like,
yeah,
there's something different. There's something cinematic going on here that just wasn't in the other two, or even
yeah,
even in Mass Effect. And I was just like, what is going on? This is cool, and it carried throughout pretty much, like the entire game. And I was just like, damn.
Well, and that's, I mean, I felt the same way watching, especially like that opening sequence, for as an example. Um, Nick Thornborough was looking at how the opening was happening, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of exposition and walking and talking. And Nick just knew that there was a better way to tell that story, and so he storyboarded that whole sequence, essentially on his own, I think.
Wow.
and then he brought it to color. So he fully colorized it, and then one of our cinematics guys put it to animatic, like made an animatic of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we all got so excited about it. And when we brought it to the writers and the lead and the designers and all the leads on the project, we basically just let it play, and everyone just left the room knowing that that's what we were going to do.
Like, there's like no other way, guys.
It was just like, well, of course we're doing that.
Wow.
Just an interesting mystery. You don't know what's going on exactly. It's giving you information, but not too much, and that actually really helped kick off. We did a lot more storyboarding for that game, really than ever before. So we spent probably a good 6 months for where at least 3 or 4 concept artists were doing just storyboards.
Wow, holy! Is that something typical that would happen on another project, or are you guys mostly focusing on actual design?
For the most part, just design.
Wow.
Most storyboard stuff would be done by cinematic artists, and then only a few of them that feel comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
But this time around, we kind of just we were able to buy ourselves the time. That was another thing that made the project really great, was that we had originally been working on an expansion for Dragon Age 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we decided to switch over to the Frostbite engine, we decided to just basically cut our losses, like just start a new game, start the next game, the next full game.
Right.
But all of that stuff we'd done for the expansion was still relevant.
Gotcha. Story-wise as well?
Story-wise, it was mostly, and the writers were very helpful. Like they basically wrote a lot of that stuff into the story, and so basically it bought us about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months worth of concept art time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which I guess probably made a huge difference too.
It really did. Well, and that's why we were able to get like the tarot cards for the menu systems, and
those were beautiful. I was just like, man, like again, just going above and beyond in that particular game compared to, I mean, like the last two were fantastic, but yeah.
Well, and I like to say too, like Dragon Age 2 was the sketch and Inquisition was the execution.
Right.
Like because the art direction in Dragon Age 2, like it was a different art director. It was a lot of a lot of different artists on that team. So it is definitely a change. But it was like, we just weren't able to completely execute what we wanted to on Dragon Age 2. Inquisition was finally being able to take that model that we knew worked and give it all the attention and the love and the time, and the Frostbite engine, frankly.
Right. Yeah, it did make a huge difference. Definitely. Yeah. Wow. So other than BioWare, you haven't been involved with any other studios?
No.
Any like outside work or freelance work or nothing?
Yeah, I just recently was able to do like 3 variant covers for Marvel.
Oh wow!
Which was kind of a dream come true.
Yeah, that's true. I saw that. Actually, my friend pointed one of them out to me. It was the one where like Old Man, Iron Man, and Cap and everybody.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was like, damn. Matt's really good at Marvel covers. Like, if concept art ever just like turns over, you could just instantly go into another field, and they'd be like, "Where the hell have you been?"
Well, that's encouraging. Yeah. Hopefully, it never comes to that. But I mean, it is true. It was a dream come true. I was joking with my wife that Marvel has now given me more money than I've given them.
Wow,
it's kind of a nice, a nice turning point there.
One of the things that'd be like Star Wars just suddenly, I don't know, like giving me a little bit of work and then paying for all of the merch I've ever bought in my whole life.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Man.
So that was pretty cool. And aside from that, there've been a few little side projects here and there and things like that.
I wanted to ask you about the ILM project because I've been following your work since like literally the end of high school, which for me is like 5-6 years ago. But that project in particular, a friend at work showed it to me, and I was just like, okay, I know who this is, but this is ridiculous. This is so good.
Oh, thank you.
Like being a huge Star Wars fan, and obviously you are too. Like knowing about the Hidden Fortress, some of the like the backstory of how the films were made, being able to really feed into that project. Do you want to talk a little about the ILM thing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that was it kind of came at a perfect time. I have 2 kids, and they're now kind of at the age where they actually go to bed.
Right.
So I've been able to get some actual time to make art again. I was sitting at my desk, in that familiar state of, okay, what should I draw? Like, I don't want to do another study. I need to actually apply it to something. Mm-hmm. And then pop up comes the ILM Art Challenge on ArtStation. And so I just thought, all right, sure, I'll sign up for this. and having no idea how much work it would actually be.
Did you know what you were getting into?
I had no idea.
Oh man.
But it was cool. I mean, for the first ones go in, you realize like, wow, there's like 3,000 people or more that are
4,000 actually. And there
4,000.
was like 200 at the end. So I was just like, man, that's like a 5.7 survivor rate or
Yeah, it's
something like
crazy.
that. Yeah.
It's really crazy. But I just thought that would be great. I haven't really tried drawing Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is fundamental. It's like mental architecture for all of us at this point.
Yeah.
But I've never tried to draw it. And the one thing I loved about the first challenge was that it was having to draw only stuff that already existed. Like, don't invent characters, don't invent locations. Like, you use only material that's there. And it really kind of forced you to try to like absorb the aesthetic as much as possible.
No designing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. On my own personal side, I made it to the end of the first, but I was just
Okay.
like, I'm getting used to a full-time job. I'm right out of school. I can't handle
Yeah.
both. Like,
Oh no, for sure.
a lot of people, including people that could have won, eventually just had to drop out because like, yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
I was having an argument with some people at work. I was just like, man, Matt should have won, and like most people were like, yep, and one guy was just like, but yeah, like everyone was like, you just absolutely knocked it out of the park on that one.
Oh, well,
So
thank you. That's encouraging.
like how many hours was that, in total to
Well,
produce all that stuff?
that's a good question. Each piece for them, I probably put in at least 6 hours.
Jeez.
So that's probably, yeah, I don't know, times, how many were there? It doesn't, many hours. It was a long time, but I mean, it was spread out. The whole contest kind of was spread out throughout the summer. Like you'd have, the one challenge was just basically 2 images, and they gave you almost like a week and a half for each one. So it ends up being, if you manage your time, it wasn't too bad. But
Yeah.
I totally understand why people were dropping out, and actually that really upped the terror factor. Because for anyone that doesn't know, this contest was run where you couldn't see anybody else that was in it. So as far as you were concerned, it was just you and ILM.
Yeah.
And so
And you
and a
also couldn't
number.
post on social media, so like you
Yeah.
pretty much can't show anything until the end and get feedback on anything whatsoever.
Exactly. So occasionally, when a really talented artist would have to drop out, and you'd see some of their work, it's like, oh shit! You realize like there are sharks in the water.
Dead sharks, but sharks.
Well, yeah, it's like, well, if they're dropping out, who's still in? Like this is terrifying.
People are
Yeah.
getting picked off, but I mean, like they're sort of getting picked off by their own, schedules or timelines and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, like that challenge sort of convinced me. Seeing you finish and being like, wow. Like I wouldn't have won. I wouldn't even come close. I wouldn't have gotten an honorable mention. But just seeing what you did just convinced me, like, if I start a challenge like that or even have an interest in one, I'm never giving up. Like, I will
Yeah,
make the
good.
time from now on.
Absolutely. Well, and honestly, like I'm very like I'm really honored and humbled by the honorable mention. Like that to me, I've been glowing ever since. It's huge. It feels like a bit too much. But I think just on
Too
a
much
personal
or not enough.
I think on a personal note, like it just to have actually finished this, like I'm really thrilled. It showed me just personally what I'm capable of. Like I really tried on this thing, so I'm glad it
Yeah.
went far. But I think it's more encouragement to just like try more things, finish more things, try new subject matter.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
looking at some of the winners, like the first and second, third place, it's like, oh damn, okay, now I got to work even
Yeah, so it's
harder.
motivation sort of pushing you and pulling you too.
Exactly.
Nice. So yeah, that sounds like it was a crazy experience for you. Jeez. So moving on, sort of back to your stuff at BioWare. And you said you were a lead concept artist.
Yeah.
So how does that differ from a position like the actual art director and the concept artists that are under you?
Sure. I like to say they basically just needed a point of contact.
Right.
So that's essentially that's the sum of it for the most part. If someone needs to come talk to the concept art group as a whole, they can come to just one person, and and I can kind of filter it that way. But in trying to emulate my art director, there's something I really love about. I just see like in leading, he's leading by example, and he basically looks at what his team is experiencing and tries to get any obstacles out of the way. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's his number one job. So I kind of try to do the same for anyone that's working with me. Just in any concept art job, there's just a million requests that come through that are, it's just the normal stuff that comes through. It's like we need 10 chairs, we need
Okay, mic test, mic test, mic test, mic test. Okay. All right. Check my mic. I have webcam today, but okay, folks, welcome to another digital workshop. My name is William Tay 1Nakata. William Tay 1Nakata. Okay, so trying to do a stream on Twitch while listening to this guy named Matt Rhodes. I didn't have any mic earlier, so I'm just working on my animation. Football guy jumping. Some timing issues here. Should slow down this part here. Boom. This part should. Yeah. So I'm trying to adjust the timings, but Maya doesn't have a good way to, what do you call it, move a lot of keyframes. Maya. Let's check this out. Not sure. Anyway, we listening to Matt Rhodes, this guy, concept artist, and talked about what's that? How you can do animation and still get into concept art, at least 2D animation. If you do 2D animation, you draw a lot. So yeah, he got into concept art. So maybe I'll do concept art someday. Who knows? I'm gonna turn off the mic a while and let's continue listening to Matt Rhodes while I do my Maya animation.
You know, 4 goblets. What does a place setting look like?
Yeah.
What did torches look like in this environment? Like, it's not the awesome, glamorous, design a main character, design a dragon, design all this cool stuff.
Just design a really, really good looking box.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like, honestly, one of the things I'm the most proud of on Inquisition is, for example, and this I feel is like what a lead should be doing. So I'm thankful I had the opportunity to try it. Was those tarot cards were coming in and they were looking beautiful. Casper Conifel, Ramil Sunga, and Nick Thornborough in particular were just knocking them out of the park.
Yeah.
I did a few of them, but I realized like mine just did not have the same level of charm that theirs had, that they just had this knack for it. So for 2 months, I tried to take on all of the just typical kind of drudge work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm able to work fairly quickly. That's kind of one of the skills I bring to the table. And so I was able to quickly kind of churn through and essentially play defense so that they could just pour all their love into those things.
Right. So
And
you were basically taking some of their workload so they could really, really nail those things. Because like you see those
yeah.
tarot cards all the time in the game.
Oh yeah,
Like every
exactly.
load screen, you can like shuffle through them. It's fucking cool.
Totally. And so every time a new one would be finished, it would just, if I'm getting tired or frustrated or exhausted, a new one would come in and it just, that's why I'm doing awesome. Okay, totally worth it. So in that case, I think as a lead, that's like one of those things that you can do is you should know your team and recognize, who can do what, and try to provide opportunities for an artist to really excel at whatever it is that their gifts are.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That
But
that that,
it's
that that's totally something I wouldn't have expected. But yeah, that's awesome.
it's also kind of Bioware was smart in that they realized pretty early on that they kept promoting people out of their abilities. Um,
Okay.
so they created like management streams and tech streams. So as you get promoted, you could either become a people person, a people manager, or you could become a technical. You get technically promoted. That's kind of the path that I've chosen. Like if I were to become an art director, I would be drawing way less.
Right. And you sort of do not want to do that. You want to keep drawing no matter what.
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, I want to be at my desk drawing.
Hmm.
So being a lead concept artist is kind of the highest point that I can still be doing that.
Right.
And so just kind of continuing in that vein, me and my art director work really well together. So we're just trying to hold this pattern of art director and lead concept artist, and just I go out and I draw whatever needs to get drawn,
Hmm.
and he's able to kind of manage how that gets translated to the rest of the team.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Wow, that's a distinction that is definitely news to me, which is really really good to sort of file away. And for everyone else who's listening too, I get all these little tidbits about what concept art actually is and all the little nuances and stuff, and even
Yeah,
studio to studio it's different. And I'm just like,
yeah,
wow, this is such an awesome field.
totally.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm working visual development in an animation studio, so it's
okay.
kind of similar, but it's also a
Yeah,
lot smaller scale too.
right. So you're doing a lot of different subject matter.
Like literally everything.
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
are you doing like within a production? So what kind of stuff are you working on right now?
So right now the studio itself is working on a couple of Nickelodeon shows, and I actually don't know if I can mention what they are, but
Okay.
Nickelodeon, so a lot
Fair
a lot
enough.
cartoonier.
Sure.
And then sort of in the back drawer, we're doing a lot of development on original shows that will eventually be coming out of the studio. So we want to,
Cool. Okay.
basically fund them ourselves. And some of them are like, detailed and like semi-realistic enough to look like Star Wars concept art, and then some of it
Nice.
is just like some of the most cartoony stuff I've ever seen. And like I come from the side of things kind of like you actually, where like the more sort of DreamWorks end of animation, where
Yeah.
it's a little not realistic, but it's sort of it's in between that and cartoony. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm really stretching what I can do by attempting simpler stuff, and it's harder than it sounds.
Oh man, that would. Yeah. Well, like trying to switch up your style, that's gotta just be a massive, massive change.
Yeah, it sort of just it basically requires you to just sort of walk off the edge of the plank and just take the plunge and just
Yeah.
friggin' do it. And if you don't if it doesn't really work out, then like that's okay, because you can pass it on to like we got another, I think, one or two people in development now, because it's kind of a growing thing ever since I got there. One of the interns who was going to go back to Sheridan for fourth year ended up just staying on at the studio because he's like, I need money and they think I can do it and everyone's telling me to, so I'm going to stay. And that's
Yeah.
friggin' awesome for him, because not only does he get to miss out on, I don't even know how much animation is per year now, but like he also just gets to get into the industry earlier,
Yeah. Well,
which is really awesome for him too. It actually kind of reminds me of you, except you went back to school.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a really really kick-ass job so far, and I'm just absolutely loving every part of it. It's really stressful too, but I think that kind of comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Like
Well,
like like
and the nice thing
in
is,
your own experience, is it sort of like stress sometimes, lower stress other times?
yeah, it comes in waves for sure.
Hmm.
There's times where everything is needed right now, and
Yeah.
then other times, although it is rare, that you get to sit and really think and try things out and experiment.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, that's true. That the stressful times, I think, it's really good. We've been doing some life drawing at work, and we uh, you end up getting into that 10-minute pose length where you're starting to really just take your time. And then at one point we switched right back to 1 minute. I was like, oh crap, shit, how does this work? Okay, and you suddenly realize that how much confidence comes from having to rush,
Hmm. Yeah.
and you really find your own shorthand when you're trying to get things done super fast.
Yeah, that's totally
I
what gesture drawing is all about. It's all shorthand until you can get into the other
Yeah,
poses.
which I'm starting to believe more and more that's all style is. It's like whatever your shorthand is.
Hmm. Yeah. Shit. There was a YouTube video and someone was mentioning that. Yeah, a friend sent it to me. I watched it about a month ago, and he was saying like it's better just to learn to draw realistically, and then
Yeah,
sort of figure out what your shorthand is. What was his
I
example? I think
I know
he.
the video you're talking about. He was talking about an anime nose.
Oh yeah, that was it. Holy shit! And he was just like, so like the shadow shape. Basically, the artist just like distilled it down into this particular shape, and that's it. It's a nose missing all the other detail except for this, and it's
Yeah,
sort of how he sort of shorthands reality. And I was just like, that's amazing. I'm just gonna completely forget about my own style then and just study reality until it becomes boring.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, being able to just, yeah, because if you understand it, you can change it, you can define it. That's it's funny too because I'm kind of glad to use the anime example because I mean there are some very talented artists who use it, but there are a lot of style traps that young artists fall into
Right.
where they think if they just figure out this style, then they're going to be okay instead of figuring out reality.
Yeah, definitely. I actually know some really kick ass artists who work in like an anime style,
Yeah,
but the best ones can switch immediately out of it, and they're
exactly.
just like, I can draw Western cartoons, I can draw like Western comics or like realistic anything because they've already
Totally.
studied it. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, a
definitely.
great other example would be like furry artists, but then you look at Black Sad.
Exactly. Black Sad is like that, just taken to the absolute like extreme, but good extreme.
Exactly.
And I think I'd argue that Black Sad like it definitely comes less from like the anime furry side and more from like just I guess the anthropomorphic Disney animation side.
Just being unbelievably talented side. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, and just and then watercoloring every single page. Like what the hell, man?
Oh
That's
man, I
just
know. I know.
ugh. Like I'm not even that far along my own development. Like my career started 4 months ago, but like basically the artist just like distilled it down into this particular shape, and that's it. It's a nose missing all the other detail except for this, and it's
Yeah.
sort of how he sort of shorthands reality. And I was just like, that's amazing. I'm just gonna completely forget about my own style then and just study reality until it becomes boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Being able to just, yeah, because if you understand it, you can change it, you can define it. That's it's funny too because I'm kind of glad to use the anime example because I mean there are some very talented artists who use it, but there are a lot of style traps that young artists fall into
Right.
where they think if they just figure out this style, then they're going to be okay instead of figuring out reality.
Yeah, definitely. I actually know some really kick ass artists who work in like an anime style,
Yeah,
but the best ones can switch immediately out of it, and they're
exactly.
just like, I can draw Western cartoons, I can draw like Western comics or like realistic anything because they've already
Totally.
studied it. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, a
definitely.
great other example would be like furry artists, but then you look at Black Sad.
Exactly. Black Sad is like that, just taken to the absolute like extreme, but good extreme.
Exactly.
And I think I'd argue that Black Sad like it definitely comes less from like the anime furry side and more from like just I guess the anthropomorphic Disney animation side.
Just being unbelievably talented side. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, and just and then watercoloring every single page. Like what the hell, man?
Oh
That's
man, I
just
know. I know.
ugh. Like I'm not even that far along my own development. Like my career started 4 months ago, but like god damn it, I still
Oh, gets
yeah.
so daunting, but
Yeah, well,
worth.
you know what? Like, do more ILM challenges, and you'll have the confidence to just make a black sad yourself. Actually, that's
Heck
another
yeah,
question I wanted to ask you. So, like on the side, if you have any time at all, do you have like any personal IP projects going?
I do.
Really?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
do. I a few years ago, actually, surprisingly a long amount of time ago now, probably like 5 or 6 years or something like that. I did a comic for an anthology project
Mm-hmm.
that some fellow artists and from ACAD and Bioware were doing. So everyone just kind of pitched in with a comic, and I just enjoyed that so much, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it ever since. So I've been kind of writing and drawing. I've got about 10 pages of thumbnails for an outline.
Wow.
Uh, So I think, yeah, just kind of toying with the graphic novel thing. We'll see what time allows and how things
Yeah,
go.
that's pretty much it. Like you got to schedule it into what you're already doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, there's an artist that you if have you heard of Mickey Montillo?
Can you spell that?
Miki and then Montlo with an accent on the O. You might also just get lucky by searching
Yeah.
Warship Jolly Roger.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's pretty
Yeah.
much exactly what you just described, just made real.
Totally. That was incredible.
Yeah, I'm staring at it on my desk right now because I finally just found the hardcover version, and I was just like, so, and I flipped to the back because I knew there was gonna be some cool stuff, and he basically just treated it like an animation production, and the entire comic could be cells from an animated film, but they're just
Yeah.
drawings, really
Yeah.
really well rendered and drawn drawings, but like it could be an animated film if he could. Wanted to ask you, so like on the side, if you have any time at all, do you have like any personal IP projects going?
I do.
Really
Yeah, I
awesome.
do. I a few years ago, actually, surprisingly a long amount of time ago now, probably like 5 or 6 years or something like that. I did a comic for an anthology project
Mm-hmm.
that some fellow artists and from ACAD and Bioware were doing. So everyone just kind of pitched in with a comic, and I just enjoyed that so much, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it ever since. So I've been kind of writing and drawing. I've got about 10 pages of thumbnails for an outline.
Wow.
Uh, so I think, yeah, just kind of toying with the graphic novel thing. We'll see what time allows and how things
Yeah,
go.
that's pretty much it. Like you got to schedule it into what you're already doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, there's an artist that you if have you heard of Mickey Montillo?
Can you spell that?
Miki and then Montlo with an accent on the O.
And then the other hand, just doing kind of like mid card trick, kind of flipping things around and
Cool.
showing things off.
Yeah, I like the hand behind the ear. That's a good thing. Like a tick. Like I remember, like I used to when I had long hair in college and I got it cut. I would still like for a few months afterwards. I would still like flick my hair
Yeah,
back
exactly.
to get it away. Or like when this anecdote I heard about an astronaut that came down from the ISS and for like half a year he'd be sitting at his desk, and when he was done writing something, he would just like hold his pen up and let go because he was so used to it just staying there. Yeah, that sort of thing. It's cool to include like tics like that into a character.
Actually, this part, I was almost nervous of just knowing that you would be watching this. I was just getting frustrated with the hips. The hip area is still something I'm wrestling with, and I wasn't happy with it. So here, I just really tried to get in and get nitty gritty with it. I'm trying to think about contrappasto, the hips off to the side, and one knee forward, one knee back. How do all the muscles connect? I'm still not totally happy with it, but it's at least something to work with.
Yeah, and that's a big part of like why I do it. Like even like from the get-go, like I've been doing it less because I just sort of want to like ride without my training wheels on for a bit and see how it sticks, but just starting from the get-go, having it down to a system where there's a few lines you can draw to remember where stuff goes, and because oftentimes I'll draw and it'll just not be working until I just like sit there and admit like, okay, I'll go back and do it the hard way, and so I just kind of try to do that first.
Yeah.
At least do it that way, and then
exactly.
play it out from just learn what I need to learn.
Exactly. Yeah. And here I was trying to give him he's mid-conversation. He's a talker first and foremost. And I wasn't happy with those eyes, so I redrew them. Much happier with them. Actually, even later on, the way his face was drawn here, I tried a few different attempts, and when I go to the next level up of inking, I changed it and then wasn't happy with it. I literally just took these eyes and brought them back up.
Nice.
Into the final. Sometimes when you're just going quickly, you draw the right thing.
Yeah. It's almost like it feels like beginner's luck or so. But yeah, you usually, is this like similar how you work day to day?
Oh yeah, very much so. Like even just up there having the fast and dirty sketch.
Yeah.
It kind of helps keep you grounded. I have to work messy first, and just keep going back to my notes here and there just to make sure I'm getting everything and putting everything in context. But yeah, so working fast and dirty, and then a slightly more refinement, then a little bit more still, then a little bit more still, until I'm ready to do the final kind of line work inking pass. But I still try to keep a little bit of fun for that last pass. Like I try not to draw everything too specific. Still keep things somewhat vague.
It's almost like the sketch becomes the notes.
Yeah, exactly.
There's it's just little anchors for like what to remember and what to include. As long as it's not like something with a lot of structure and volume, like a hand or a face or a gun or something. It's just